What do you got to tell me this time?
Oh, gee whiz. Like, what are you interested in?
Well, I'm really interested in the Hubbard stuff, just because I think there's a curiosity about what he was like. You know how people say you've worked with a movie star, they go, what's he really like?
Yeah. Yeah, and I always end up saying, well, he was a really big man.
And that was
right?
it?
And he had a voice that was like that. He talked like this a lot.
What's the matter with your head?
Yeah. But he could be charming. He could be a bully.
Did you ever see him bully people?
Oh yeah, I saw him get like irrational and very angry, and you know, he was under control, but he definitely bullied people, and people were generally in fear of him. When he came on the set, you know, to shoot movies, and he was the director, he was a scary guy to be around. If everything went exactly, you know, the way that he had it in his mind it should go, everything could be fine and he could be charming, but the slightest thing could send him off and he could become very antagonistic and very cruel and a bully.
What would be an example of his cruelty?
I don't have a specific person in mind, but I remember him screaming about hearing sounds that, and then the sound, sound, I hear something, and people were just in terror of the guy and running around trying to find this sound that he was hearing. Same thing with his focusing. So a number of shots that he shot were out of focus. And then he would rant at someone else because it was out of focus, but it was he who was really the problem. He needed glasses and he didn't wear glasses, and a lot of stuff he shot was out of focus. So, you know, I saw his cruelty in a number of ways because I saw, for example, what he did to his daughter, Alexis. So he turned the weight of the guardian's office really on her. She had to confront the guardian's office. The guardian's office read this letter to her that he had written, and it was very cruel to her. You can see cruelty in his language and stuff that he writes about, his material about suppressive persons, about wogs, about people who surround him. Jim Dinkelsey, who was his medical officer, Hubbard accused Jim, who was completely devoted to the guy, but accused him of poisoning Hubbard, which was completely nuts. He wasn't being poisoned at all. But he would then Hubbard would then turn the whole power and weight of the organization against someone who crossed him in some way, or he invented some problem. Myself, he assigned me to the RPF on 2 occasions, and the second was because he figured that I was joking about his movie making. So can you imagine, he gets this idea that I was joking, when in fact I wasn't. I was producing a very light voiceover, which was, you know, in part to cheer him up, because he was, you know, sick a little bit at the time. But he took this as a tremendous insult, and I spent another 8 years or 8 months on the RPF just because he thought that I was joking.
Making fun of him?
Yeah, making fun of his movie making. which simply was not the case.
Back to his daughter there in the guardian's office. What was the story? Why was he upset with his daughter?
Well, this was in the 1970s, and his daughter Alexis was born, I think in probably, I'm not sure the exact date, 50, 51, could get it. But this was the daughter that he had taken off to Cuba with in 1951. This was the daughter of his second wife, Sarah Northrup. And after she was in her 20s, and she wanted to communicate with the person that she knew to be her father. And so she set off on this quest to find him and communicate with him. And she wrote to him, and she wanted to meet with him. And his handling for her was to write this letter in which he denied paternity. He blamed Jack Parsons for the paternity, and he really had the guardian's office really put her down, attack her, rather than, treat her as you would think this father figure and the founder of this religion would treat a daughter, but he treated her, in my opinion, very cruelly.
And he continued to deny her?
Yes, right to the end. He even wrote her into his will, and specifically cut her out of the will. But there's no doubt in my mind that she was his daughter. She looked more like him than any of the rest of the children.
And was paternity ever established?
I don't think that it was officially, but it was also well known. So Sarah knew her mother. I met her mother at the time, and that is in 1986. Met her mother and met Alexis in 1986 in Boston. So she knew, and there was no doubt in my mind. But I don't think that any medical test was ever done, because I don't think that anyone could ever get any Hubbard blood or DNA to make the test.